A very good morning, students. Welcome back to online class on Java programming course. In our previous session, we have seen how we can do the setup for Java environment. How we can download the Java software from the internet and how we can install it into our computer and how we can do the path setting for that Java packages. Everything we have discussed in our previous session. We have also seen how we can do the compilation and execution of our Java programs. That also we had an idea. Okay, so using edit plus, how we can execute, and using the normal packages inside the command prompt, how we can execute our Java programs. All those things we have seen. So what is left in that discussion, in the sense the use of IDE. So I told you that very soon when we actually get into the concepts of advanced Java, like your collection framework, your swings, and your AWTs, at that time we definitely have to shift our attention from this basic approach of executing the programs to the advanced level. So over there definitely we will discuss how we can use an IDE. So any of the IDEs, which I feel preferable, which I feel suitable, I will download it from the internet and I will create a lecture on that one also, how we can configure the IDE so as to get it ready for executing the Java programs. Okay, so in today's session we'll continue with our routine topics from the first unit. So in that first unit, I will try to wind up the basics in today's session so that we can go to the classes and objects concept from our next session onwards. Okay, so in today's session, only two topics left from the first unit. So already we covered almost all the basics before the classes. So I will show you and we'll have a quick review on that one. See, these buzzwords we have completed: bytecode, Java programming fundamentals we discussed. Applets, of course, in your fourth unit or in your third unit will have the idea. So data types we have covered, variables we have covered, arrays we did, the operators and control statements. In today's session I'm trying to complete this one, the operators and the control statements. And type conversion and casting we have already done with this one. So these two things we'll discuss in today's sessions: what are operators and what are control statements. So expression, of course, whenever there is a concept of variable, or whenever there is a concept of type conversion, and whenever there is a concept of operator precedence, we have to go for expressions. And it is not that we are discussing these expressions separately. So what is an expression? Expression is a combination of operators and operands. Okay, so the term operator, it is familiar to us, and the term operand, it is also familiar to us. So operator is something which performs the operation, and operand is something which receives the operation from the operator, or we can say operator performs its operations on the operand. Okay, so what are the examples of operators? Year, plus, minus, all these things. Okay, different set of operators we have in Java also. Then what are operands? Operands which receives the operations. So we can perform the operations either on constants, that is like 20, 10, all these are literals. We can perform the operations on constants, as well as we can also perform the operations on variables, isn't it? When you are declaring variables in your programming, when you are storing the values in those variables, so we can also perform the operations on those variables. So we can call those variables as operands. Okay, so hopefully you understood. So what is an expression then? Expressions are nothing but combination of operator and operator, operand and operator, combination of operator and operand. So expressions, they can be of simple expression and complex expression. Simple expression means only one operator, there needs to be only one operator. And complex expression, in the sense, if you have more than one operator, we call it as complex expression. Okay, so these type of discussions we already had in your first sem itself. Okay, I don't think I have to explain all these things in detail. So quickly we'll revise. I mean, we'll have an idea of what these things from your first sem itself. Okay, so in today's session, I'm going to start the concept of operators. Okay, so inside Java also we have a rich set of operators, or we can say Java do supports a huge collection of operators. Whatever we discussed in C, all those operators are applicable over here. Okay, so but the categorization when we see here, it is somewhat different. Okay, so most of its operators, they have divided into the following four groups. So all of the operators whatever we have inside Java, they have been categorized into four groups only. The first one, the arithmetic operators. By seeing the name only, we can say what we are going to discuss over here. Then the bitwise operators, nothing new. Then relational and logical. Okay, relational operators and logical operators. Apart from these four categories, there are some other operator categories also we have. Additional operators also we have. When it comes, that also we will see. So not only arithmetic, bitwise, relational and logical, we also have additional operators in Java. So total we can say 5 categories. Okay, 4 the regular types, and additional types, only one type of operator we will discuss, that is conditional operator. Okay, so operator groups or operator types, we have different behaviors of these operators. We have unary operator, we have binary operator, we have ternary operator. And when I'm saying these things, you might have understood based on what we are doing this division between the operators. Okay, so the first unary operator, why we call it as unary operator? It is going to use only one operand to perform its operation, like unary plus, unary minus, increment and decrement operators. All these operators, they will take only one operand to perform its operation. So we call them as unary operator. Then binary operator, or all arithmetic and bitwise operators, they are of type binary, isn't it? Binary means they will take two operands to perform their operation. Then conditional operator, we have a term conditional operator, question mark and colon. This particular symbol we use to represent the conditional operator. So when we say conditional operator, it is a ternary operator. Ternary operator in the sense it will take three operands to perform its operation. Okay, so unary, binary, ternary, that is also a different type of categorization we have in the operators, but we go according to this one. Okay, we'll discuss all the operator categories based on this categorization. That is arithmetic, bitwise, relational, logical, and one additional operator type, that is conditional operator. So the first one, arithmetic operator, by seeing the name only we can say all arithmetic and operations whatever we perform in our day-to-day life, all those operator types, they kept under this arithmetic operators. So all the mathematical expressions, whenever we go for mathematical expressions into your algebra, we use different operators over there, like plus, minus, isn't it, division, modulo division. All those operators, we call them as arithmetic operators. Okay, arithmetic operators are used in mathematical expression in the same way that they are used in algebra. So there is nothing difference. Whatever role those operators are having in your mathematics when you deal with, here also their role is exactly same. Okay, only few additional operators we have, only few additional notations we have, that we need to discuss over here. Okay, so the operands of the arithmetic operators must be of numeric type. So we can't perform these arithmetic operations between the boolean type, between the string type. Likewise, we always have to perform these arithmetic operations between the numeric types. And there is one exclusion on this statement, that is character type. You can also perform the arithmetic operations between character type, because characters, they are a subset of integers only. Okay, they are a subset of integers, so we can perform the arithmetic, all the arithmetic operations on character as well, because every character, as you know, it is going to have its own ASCII value in the computer terminology. So whenever we perform the arithmetic operations between the characters, they take the ASCII equivalent. Okay, whatever character we are specifying over there in the arithmetic expression, it will take its ASCII equivalent over there. So that's the reason we can even perform the arithmetic operation between the characters. But performing the arithmetic operations between Boolean type, between string type, it is not allowed. Okay, it is strictly prohibited in Java. Okay, so arithmetic operators we have discussed. So these are some of the arithmetic operators. This table will list those operators over here, like arithmetic addition. In order to add two numbers, we use arithmetic addition. Then arithmetic subtraction, to subtract one number from the other, we use arithmetic subtraction. So this arithmetic subtraction, it is also having a unary form, unary minus. So to negate a particular value, to take the negative value of an operand, we use this minus operator or subtraction operator. How come? Suppose you have a value as 24, let us assume. If I want negative a, if I want negative a, what I have to do, simply put this minus sign, unary minus, before that a. So what will happen? The value of a will become a negative value. So take another variable b, and you want to store the value which is there inside a, the negative value of that a, into b. Then how come? Simply put minus a. So now what this b will hold? This b will hold minus 24. Okay, b will hold minus 24. Likewise, the minus operator, it is also helpful in getting the negative equivalent of a number. So when you are trying to use that operator in such a way, it will give its unary form. Okay, it will give its unary form. So likewise, here it is taking only one operand, so it is its unary form. In regular approach, when you are subtracting one number from the other number, it will show its binary form. Like, let us say you are taking c is equals to a minus b. So now what it will do? It will subtract b's content from a's content. Okay, so whatever value a is holding and whatever value b is holding, b's value will be subtracted from a, and the result will be stored inside c. All these things you know already. Okay, then binary multiplication. To multiply the two operand content, we use the binary multiplication. Division, to divide the content of one operand with another operand. Then modulo division, to get the remainder, isn't it? To get the remainder of a particular number, to get the remainder of a division operation, we use this modulus operator. Okay, about this remainder, I don't think I have to give explanation over here, because it is already familiar to you. Then increment, and as well as we have decrement. Okay, increment operator, decrement operator, they are having two different forms. Pre-increment, post-increment, same thing, pre-decrement, post-decrement. Okay, so the next thing, these are all compound assignments. Okay, these are all compound assignment. We call them as addition assignment, subtraction assignment, multiplication assignment, division assignment, and modulo division assignment. Their role, I guess you know. How come? If you are writing a plus equals to b, a plus equals to b, so what exactly this means? A equals to a plus b. So we can say this as the shorthand notation for this expression. When you have an expression in this form, you can write the shortcut in this way: a plus equals to b. That means a equals to a plus b. So likewise, so this is what we call, this applies to all the arithmetic compound assignment operators. Okay, so for in case of multiplication, how come it is? Let us say if you have x multiply equals to y. So what does it mean? X multiply equals to y means x equals to x multiplied y, like this. X equals to x multiplied y. So this is the shorthand notation, and this is the actual meaning of that notation. So likewise, you have to remember. Same thing for modulus operator. If you have something like this, P modulo equals to Q. P modulus equals to Q. What does it mean? P equals to P modulus Q. So this is the actual version. Sorry, this is the actual version and this is the shorthand notation. Likewise, you have to remember all the operators. So binary, arithmetic operators, the regular ones, then increment, post increment, pre increment, decrement, post and pre decrement, then the compound operators. Okay, so these are all arithmetic operators. So the basic arithmetic operators, like we have addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and the minus operator, it is having its unary form as well. That we have to remember. So these are some of the important points that I have written over here. So basic arithmetic operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, okay, all behave as one would expect for all numeric types. Okay, so the way how we used all these operations in your mathematics, the same way they behave over here. Then the minus operator, it is having its unary form as well. You have to remember that one. So for what purpose we are using? To negate a single operator. Okay, why we are saying single operand? Because it is a unary form. Okay, because it is a unary form, it will take only single operand and it will negate its value. Then, so division operation, it must be applied to only integers. We cannot apply the division operation to real numbers. Okay, that is also you have to remember. And because if at all a particular number is having fractional part or fractional component, the result will be unknown. Okay, or the result will be some weird result you will get. So because of that reason, we cannot perform the division operation between the fraction numbers or between the floating point numbers. We have to apply, always we have to apply the division operation or modular division operation only to integer types. Okay, hopefully you understood. Then this modulus operator will return the remainder of division operation. Okay, this we already know, and it cannot be applied to floating point types. Okay, I think in Java we can apply this modulus division to the floating point as well as integers, because here they have given this statement. Okay, I need to justify this one. So the modulus operator, they are saying we can apply to floating point as well as integer types in Java. Then compound arithmetic operators we discussed. Okay, then the bitwise operators we have. Okay, all the bitwise operators we apply at the bit level of the operand. So unlike how the arithmetic operators get applied on the integer form or whatever value you are giving directly on that value, but bitwise operators, they will be applied in a different way. First, they will convert the given value into bits, into binary form, and then they will be applied. Okay, you have to remember this one. So Java defines several bitwise operators that can be applied to an integer type, long, short, int, character, and byte. Okay, they will be applied on all these types, but whatever value you are going to store inside these type of variables, they will convert these values to binary type and they will apply on those binary type of values. Okay, they will apply themselves on binary type of those values. They will not apply directly whatever value you are giving into it. First, they will convert to binary form and they will apply into bit level. Okay, these operators act upon individual bits, here you can see, of their operands. So they will convert the number into binary form and they will apply on that binary number. Individual bits, they will operate on individual bits. So what sort of bitwise operators we have in the sense? Bitwise unary not. It will simply negate all the bits. So suppose if you are storing 2, let us say a equals to 2 you have taken. In byte you take, because it will be very easy. Take the type as byte. Okay, so byte a equals to 2. So byte in the sense how many bits? Only 8 bits. Only one byte it will take. So 8 bits. So in 8 bits, how you store this 2? So 6 zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then 2 means 1, 0. Likewise. Okay, so when you apply negation of A, what will happen? You are indirectly applying not of this entire thing. So what it will do? It will simply reverse all the bits. Wherever you have zeros, it will put 1, and wherever you have ones, it will put zeros. Like this. If you convert this value, it will be a negative value, because the sign bit, if you see over here, the last bit, it will be considered as a sign bit, and as sign bit is becoming 1, this entire value will become a negative value. Okay, hopefully you understood. So in that way you will get the result of this bitwise operation. Okay, bitwise operation. Then we have a bitwise not. It will apply at bit level. It is a unary operator, bitwise not. Then we have, because it is taking only one operand, as you can see over here, only one operand it is taking, so it is a unary operator. Then bitwise and, it is a binary operator. It will also apply at bit level. Bitwise not, bitwise XOR, left shift, right shift, and compound assignments. All these are binary operators. Okay, compound assignments including left shift, right shift, all these are binary operators. Only the first one, it is a unary operator. It will take only one operand, and remaining all, they will take binary, two operands to perform their operations. Okay, so we'll see how these operators will apply their uh, what we call values in Java. So they have given some examples over here representing signed integers in Java. All of the integer types except character are signed integers. This means that they can be representing negative values as well as positive values. Java uses its an encoding known as a 2's complement, which means that negative numbers are represented by inverting, changing ones to zeros and vice versa. All of the bits in a value, then add 1 to the result. Okay, 2's complement, I guess you are familiar with your BE subject, okay, electronics subject. So how we are finding the 2's complement in your CO, computer organization, also you will do this complementing stuff. Okay, there you will get the exact knowledge of how we are representing floating point numbers, that is negative numbers in binary form. Representing negative numbers in binary form, we need to calculate the 2's complement of that number. Okay, so just now I told you, whenever we are going for this unary negation operation, it is reversing all the bits and the sign bit is becoming 1. So this will represent a negative number. So whenever it is representing a negative number, what we have to do, we cannot directly get the actual value of this number. So again, what we have to do, in order to get the actual number, whatever this number is representing, we have to perform the 2's complement of that number. Okay, it is a lengthy concept basically. So anyhow, we'll quickly do it, okay, because it is there in our syllabus, so we will quickly try to do it. So just go to the whiteboard application, take an example of okay, take an example of a simple byte variable. I told you to take byte only because it will take only 8 bits. So I'm taking, just give me a second. Okay, I'm taking byte a is equals to some 2. Okay, and I'm taking another variable like byte b is equals to bitwise unary not of a. So this, what it will do, it will basically convert this to, okay, it will convert 2 into okay, it will apply this negation operator on operator on this a's value. We have a as 2. So what is the equivalent in bits? What is the first we will see what value, I mean, when you put like this, what value you will get on the output screen, that we will see inside your edit plus. So I'm going to edit plus and I'm taking a normal text. So first save this file in Java format. So I'm taking the file name as sample demo, as it is our 8th lecture or something. So sample demo 8.java. So this is my file name. So I have to give the same name for my class. So class sample demo 8. Okay, inside it I will write, okay, let me just, are we seeing anywhere the environment? Because I just want to increase the font size. Preferences, yes, here it is, font. Okay, I just want to increase the font size to 24. Apply. Okay, good to go now. So this is, I hope this is visible. So simply put, yes, our public static void main of string arguments. Okay, then here you, as I said, take byte a equals to some 2 we have taken, right? In our example, yes, 2. Then take another variable, byte b equals to negation. Negation, how we apply? Not, like this, not of a. Okay, bitwise not of a. Now you print a's value. System dot out dot println of that b we have to print. Okay, that's it. So now save this one, compile it. Okay, it is giving some issue over here. Okay, it is saying some this a value, it will be considered like an integer, I guess. So as I said, in every expression the value will be converted to, automatically converted to integer. So put the by, typecast it, and you check now. Okay, it is successful now, because whenever you take byte, short, int, whatever you take, it will always be converted to integer. In our type conversion rule, expression promotions, okay, type promotion in expression, we have discussed one such topic. Over there, the first point you read, you will understand that why this a value, even though it is in byte, why this a value is considered as an integer over here. Because in an expression, it is an expression, not a, when you are representing, it is an expression. So automatically your Java is promoting its type from byte to integer. Okay, because the value is exceeding, the range of what we call byte, so it is automatically promoted to integer. So then, in order to make it as byte, what we have to do is you have to typecast with byte. So that we are doing over here. So then save it. Now run it. See, we will get, we are getting -3 over here. How we are getting this -3, I will explain you. Okay, this output I want. So what we are getting the output as over here, when we performed the what we call conversion, I mean when we applied this bitwise not, we got b value as -3. This you remember. And how we got this -3, in the sense, a value what we have, so this 2. 2 means it is okay, 1 0. In binary it is 1 0. 2 means 1 0. So but before that 1 0 will be having 6 zeros, because we took byte. So byte means 8 bits. So in that 8 bits, all will be zeros, 6 zeros, and the last 2 will be 1 0, like this. So when you apply not of a, the value will become like this. So this will become 1 1 1 1 1 1, this will become 0, and this will become 1, like this you will get. Okay, so then what we have done, yeah, this is a negative value. Basically, why it is a negative value? When you have performed, when you applied the not operation, the value becomes negative. Why? Means because this first bit, whatever bit in the first place we have, we consider the leftmost bit, we call it as leftmost bit, that is LMB, leftmost bit. Here the leftmost bit is the sign bit that represent the sign. If the leftmost bit is 0, because we said all numbers in Java, they are signed integers, are signed types, except character, all the types are signed. That means the leftmost bit represents the sign of the number. So here if it is 0, it is a positive number. 2 we have represented like a positive, but when we performed the not operation, the value became negative. The reason, because the sign bit it is 1. If the sign bit is 1, it is a negative value. Negative value. If the sign bit is 0, it is a positive value. And what is sign bit? The LMB is the sign bit. Leftmost bit is the sign bit. Remember this one, sign bit. If possible, try to write down all these things. Okay, in a number, in the binary form, whatever LMB we are having, leftmost bit we are having, that leftmost bit represents the sign of the given number. If the LMB is 0, it is a positive number. No need to do anything. Directly convert that number into decimal form, and that decimal form will become the equivalent of that number. But if the LMB is negative, you have to calculate the 2's complement. To get the actual value, you have to perform the 2's complement. How we perform 2's complement? Okay, first, in order to get the 2's complement, perform 1's complement and add 1 to it. How we can get the 2's complement? Perform 1's complement and add 1 to it. Add 1 to it. Okay, very simple form. Add 1 to it. So what is this value we have over here? That entire value as it is I am taking over here, that is 6 ones and followed by 0 1. So this is my actual value. This is my actual value. How I can perform 1's complement means invert all the bits one time. Okay, 1's complement in the sense simply invert all the bits one time. Inverting in the sense wherever you have ones, put zeros, and wherever you have zeros, put ones. That we call as inverting the bits. So simply invert all the bits one time. So if I invert this 1, I will get 0, 0, 0, 6 zeros. Isn't it? 6 zeros I will get, then after that 1 0 I will get. And this is 1's complement. Whatever we got here, this is 1's complement. This is 1's complement. Now to get the 2's complement, what we have to do? Add 1 to it. Add 1. So like this we are adding 1. So now what will happen? This 1, 1 and remaining all 6 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like this. This is what? This is 3. This is 3. And this is 2's complement. 2's complement. Okay, so when we performed the 2's complement, we got 3, and and the sign bit was 1, so it is a negative number. So whatever value we got 3, you make it as a negative value. So this is how we got -3 in our output. Hopefully you understood. So this kind of thing will be applied to all the types. Okay, to all the types. So whatever type you take, just what will differ over there in the sense the number of bits will differ. If you take an integer, you will get 32 bit. If you take a character, you will get 2 bytes, that is 16 bits. Likewise, remember this one. Okay, the same explanation they have given over here, how we are applying 1's complement and how we are adding 1 to it to get the 2's complement, and that 2's complement is nothing but the actual value, actual negative value, floating point value. Okay, so the bitwise logical operations, I mean whatever operations we discussed over there, like bitwise AND, bitwise OR, bitwise XOR and bitwise NOT, how they will be applied. So if you have A and B value like this, 0 0 0 1 1 0 1 1, all the different combinations of zeros and ones, when you take, if you apply A or B, okay, the bitwise OR operation, wherever you have 2 zeros, you will get 0. Okay, whenever A and B both becomes 0 bit, both will have the what we call 0 common bit, then only you will get the result as 0. And in rest of all the cases, wherever at least 1 1 is there, then you will get result as 1. Then bitwise AND, wherever you have at least 1 0, you will get 0. Okay, wherever you have at least 1 0, you will get 0, and in all other cases you will get 1. Okay, so bitwise XOR, wherever you have common bits, you will get 0. So 0 and 0 common, 0. 1 and 1 common, 0. And in different bits, you will get 1 1. Okay, bitwise not operation, simply it will reverse the bit. If you have 0, it will give 1. If you have 1, it will give 0 likewise. So this is bitwise logical operators. There is left shift and right shift operators also we have in bitwise operation. So simply what they will do, they will shift the bits towards left direction and towards right direction. So if it is bitwise left shift operator, it will shift the bits towards left side direction, and if it is bitwise right shift operator, it will shift the bits towards the right side. So I will give one simple example for this one. Left shift and right shift operators, they are important operators, and we discussed these things in our first year, I guess. So take the same bits. So that is, take byte A equals to 2. Okay, then let us assume I'm performing left shift twice. Okay, left shift twice. So I'm taking byte, another variable B. I'm performing B equals to A. Perform left shift. This symbol indicates left shift. Twice I'm performing. So twice means 2 times. So what is A value? Here we have A value, we have 2. So that is, as it is a bitwise operator, it operates at bit level. So convert this 2 into bits. So that is, 2 means 6 zeros followed by 1 0. So first time you apply, I mean 2 times we have to apply left shift. This will give the, I mean after the operator, whatever number count you are giving, integer number you are giving, this will represent how many times you want to perform this shift operation. Here I want to perform 2 times, so I have given the count as 2. So here first when you perform, it is shifting all the bits towards one time towards left. So this 0 will come over here, this 1 will come here, this 0, likewise all these bits will get shifted, and this first 0, leftmost bit, will be ignored, and an extra 0 will be added into the number from nowhere. Remember this one. So what will happen, basically, take the positions over here. So how come when we take the positions? So here this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I have to write those bits separately. Okay, so I'm writing those bits like 0, 0, 0. For your understanding, I'm doing like this: 0, 0, 0, and then 1, and then 0. So simply mark the places. So what I said, these bits will be shifted one position towards left direction. So this is my left direction. So this 0 will come over here. This 0 has come over here. This 1 will come over here. Okay, and this 0 will come here. Same thing for this. Same thing for this. 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 And this 0 what we are having, it will be discarded as it is not having any place here to store. So what will happen with this 0? This is discarded or ignored. We can call both. That 0 will be ignored or discarded, and this first place whatever we have over here, it will be occupied by an extra 0 from nowhere. Okay, simply put 0 over here. Okay, so an extra 0 will be considered. So nowhere, one extra 0. So like this. So next time, as we have to perform this shifting twice, isn't it? So perform one more time. Take the bits 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So now what will happen? This 0 will come over here. This 0 here. This one here. This 0 here. Likewise, all the zeros you will get. This 0 over here. And this 0, as we don't have any place, again, this what will happen? It will be discarded. Okay, this 0 got discarded and we got this value. So here another 0 will be added from nowhere. Another 0 will be added, an extra added 0. So what this value represents now? So simply see this, we got 2. So when you performed left shift operation once, the value became 4, and when you performed left shift operation another time, the value became 8. So each time you just see, you just observe, whenever you are performing the left shift operation, every time the actual value gets multiplied with 2. It is something like every time you are multiplying the actual value with 2. So whatever value you take, and if you perform the left shift operation once, the value gets multiplied by with 2. Okay, so if you are performing right shift, what will happen? The value gets divided by 2. So we'll see whether we will get the same answer or not. So 2 I have taken, so it one time performing 4 you got, 2 times you performing 8 you got. So quickly go to your edit plus. So here the same program 2 I took. So now what I am doing, yeah, remove this one. So A, so here what you have to do, apply the left shift operator once. We'll see how it will come. Okay, we are applying left shift only once. So compile. Okay, again we are getting that into byte conversion issue. So better you put this entire thing into brackets. Okay, I want this entire thing to be considered as a single unit. So now hopefully we won't get any issue. Yes. So now run the program. As you can see, we got 4. We took 2 and we applied the bitwise left shift once, we got 4 answer. So the value gets multiplied by 2. So if I take, if I want one more time the left shift operation to be performed, then what will happen? Compile. No issues. Then run. Yes, 8 we got, as you can see. So whatever result answer I have explained over here, the same thing we got in the output. So if you perform right shift, then what will happen? Okay, apply the right shift operation. Take here as 8, okay, 8, and apply one time right shift. So it will be divided, isn't it? It will be divided. So 4 you have to get. 8 divided by 2, 4 you have to get, because we are performing right shift operation only once. So we need to get 4. See, we got 4, as you can see. So if I apply the right shift operation twice, so first time divided by 2, you will get 4. Second time divided by 2, you will get 2 only. So save this and compile. No issues. Then run. As you can see, we got 2. Okay, we got 2. So 2 times it is dividing with 2. So first time divided with 2, you got 4, and second time divided with 2, you got 2 as the answer. So that's the reason we got 2 over there. It is almost 43 minutes. So let me just complete these bitwise operators at least. So this is bitwise left shift and bitwise right shift. So every time whenever we are shifting the operator content one time towards left side direction, the value gets multiplied by 2, and one time towards right side direction, right shift operation, the value gets divided by 2. Remember this one. And how this operation will be performed, I have given the full clarity on that one. So the next thing, compound assignments, bitwise compound assignments are also possible. So this is same. Yeah, here they have given. See, just the shorthand notations. Remember this one. So this means A right shift equals to 4 means A equals to A right shift 4 times. A equals to A right shift 4 times. Same thing. A bitwise OR equals to B means A equals to A bitwise OR B. So in this way you can write the shorthand notation or the compound bitwise assignment operator in case of bitwise operations. Okay, then we have the relational operators. It is very easy to understand. Relational operators when we use means whenever you want to do some type of comparison. Okay, between the conditions or between the operators, whenever we are performing the between the operands, whenever we are performing the comparison, we use these relational operators. So this is to check the equivality of two operators, to check the unequality, not equal to, this is less than, greater than, then greater than or equals to, less than or equals to. In this way we can check the what we call, we can compare the operators. Okay, so always see the output of these relational operators, whenever you go for comparison, the output will be boolean value, isn't it? If they are equal, it will return true. If they are not equal, in case of equality, double equal to operator, if both the operands are equal, it will return true. If both the operands are not equal, it will return false. Not equal, if both the operators are not equal, if both the operands are not equal, it will return true. If both the operands are equal, it will return false. Likewise, less than, greater than, in that same way it will do the comparison. Then we have the logical operators. This we apply between the conditions. Logical and logical are, okay, all these we apply between the conditions. Okay, so how they will operate, the complete explanation I have given over here. The logical operators, they are not new to us. We are using these logical operators since the C language. Okay, see this uh, other operators category. It is a ternary operator or the three-way operator. We also call it as a three-way operator or ternary operator, and you know how it will be operated. So why we are saying this operator as a ternary operator or conditional operator in the sense, because it will take the form, the general form. If you see the second point, it will take the form, the first it will take an expression, then question mark, again one more expression, then colon, again one more expression, because it is taking three operands. Okay, three expressions as operands. That's the reason we call this question mark, colon, or conditional operator as a ternary operator. Remember this one. So how it will operate? Basically, the first thing, it should always goes to a boolean value. It should be like a condition. Okay, it should be like a condition. If this first expression, it is resulting to true, okay, if this first expression it is resulting to true, the immediate expression will be evaluated, and the third expression and the last expression will be ignored. Okay, it is something like if else statement. It is something like an if else statement. If this condition is true, then this will be evaluated, or if this condition is false, then it will go to the third expression. If this is false, then it will go to the third expression, if this expression is false. So in that way it will operate itself. And then precedence and associativity, whenever we have complex expressions. Whenever we have complex expressions means, in an expression if you have more than one operator, then there is a confusion that which operator we have to evaluate first and which operator we have to evaluate next. So in such type of confusions, we have to refer this operator precedence table. Okay, operator precedence table. Here, okay, always the how the operators will be applied in the sense from top to bottom. Here at the top we have the precedency level at the highest precedence level. If operator is coming, I mean if any of these operators is coming inside your expression, then you have to evaluate them according to their order in this table. Okay, from top to bottom and from left to right. Remember this one, from top to bottom and from left to right you have to go accordingly. So that means this operator, it is having the highest priority inside your precedence table, and whatever operator we have over here, this operator, it is having the lowest priority in the precedence table. So this is having the highest priority and this is having the lowest priority. So when compared with these two, in a row, when compared with these two, this operator is having the highest and this operator is having the lowest priority. Remember this one. In a row, this is having highest, this is having lowest. So in this row, this is having highest, and this last one, this is having the lowest. So the precedence will go in this direction. Okay, first this, then this, then this, then finally this one likewise, and top to bottom. Okay, always the operators which are coming near to this highest mark inside the table, near to this highest mark, they will be evaluated first. Okay, inside rows we are, inside column we are saying. Okay, so because this parenthesis, they are very near to highest, so they will be evaluated first, and then this increment operator, then this star likewise, remember this. So this is operator precedence. Then we have the control statements. Control statements, you know, they are of two types. One is conditional and the second one is iterative. So conditional, we have simple if, nested if. Okay, selection statements, we also call them as conditional statements or selection statements. We have simple if statement, if else statement, nested if else statement, and if else if ladder, then switch statement, and we can also have the nested switch statement. And I don't think I have to give any explanation on these things because they are very simple to understand, and moreover we used these statements from our first semester onwards. Okay, so simple if else, nested if else ladder, then finally switch and nested switch. These statements we call them as the conditional selection okay, control statements. Then we have the iterative statements. In Java we have three iterative statements are nothing but we normally call them as loops. Okay, we have three different types of loops: for loop, while loop, do while loop. In that, the for loop is a pre-test loop, sorry, do while is a pre-test loop, post-test loop. Okay, so for loop and while loop, they two are pre-test. Why pre-test means? Because the condition will be tested prior to the execution of the body. But whereas do while, it is a post-test loop. Post-test, because the condition will be tested at the end of the loop body. Okay, so pre-test, post-test loops. For every loop I have given the syntax, and it is same like your C language, no change. Do while loop, the syntax. For loop, here there is a special case inside for loop we have, that is the for each version of the for loop. This thing we'll discuss in our next class. Okay, for each form or for each version of for loop, it is having two. One is the traditional form. Traditional form is same like what we discussed in C language, and this for each is the new form. Okay, about this new form we'll discuss in our next lecture. Okay, so in short, the complete for loop concept we'll discuss in our next session. Along with there are some loop breaking, there are some statements which we use inside the loop, like your break, continue, go to, all these statements. We will discuss those statements as well. Okay, so hope you understood all the concepts whatever we discussed in today's session. Okay, try to complete the assignment to get the attendance. Okay, thank you very much, students, and with this we have completed almost half of your first unit. Okay, I think for CSC people we have completed the first unit, but for IT people half of the first unit. Okay, thank you very much, students.